Okay, YouTube. Hi, it's Brian with Grey Wolf Towers again. I'm sorry, it is extremely hot in this office, and with the fan off, it just gets hotter with the lights. So forgive me, I'm a little out of breath because of the heat, but also I've been fighting a little bit of congestion in my nose, so bear with me. And you might see me wet my head a few times because it's really hot in here. But I just received the package. I've opened it. It wasn't new, it was already used. So in this is an upgrade for my wife's machine. I got it from a friend on the Discord who has been very nice and sold this to me at a decent deal. So I'm gonna plug this up to my wife's machine. I recently upgraded her tower, which is in this nice Thermaltake C22 Snow Edition case. I upgraded it from a Ryzen 5 2400G to a Ryzen 7 1700, and the performance seems to be doing really good, and I put the stock cooler in it. However, it's still running warmer than I'd like. Even at stock settings for the CPU speed, I've not overclocked it or anything, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to upgrade the cooler to a water cooler because we are in Texas. It is a lot hotter here. She doesn't use it 24/7, and so it'll have a lot of time to cool down. It'll take longer for it to warm up than an air cooler, and so the trade-offs are pretty good there. This is the first time I've used a used one, so it's going to take me a little bit to get this together, but I wanted to let you guys see putting together a water cooler into a existing system. I've got a bunch of projects lined up for today, so hopefully I'll get at least a couple of them filmed and edited this week. Today is New Year's Eve, so it's going to be a bit hectic later on. So I wanted to go ahead and use this little bit of time that I had to do this while my wife's doing scrapbooking with the kids. So, alright. Now, over the course of the past 6 months or so, since the video of my daughter Lizzie and I putting this together, there have been several upgrades already. One being the CPU. I upgraded that from a Ryzen 5 2400 to a Ryzen 7 1700. Also, I upgraded the GTX 1050 Ti to a 1070 Ti Duke Edition from MSI. Very nice, very powerful card, does great. Whew. Like I said, sorry about that. You're also going to see me breaking a couple of the traditional rules, such as drinking some water. You got to keep hydrated, especially in this heat. And so I do keep it away from stuff, but you'll see me every now and then taking a moment to take a drink. Or I might split the video and you'll see me doing that. So yeah, I've never put a water cooler into this machine. In fact, this is only the second water cooler I've ever installed, period. It's used, didn't come with the instructions, so I'm kind of going by memory. I've also got to figure out a couple of things as far as getting this together. Overall, though, I don't expect it to be too bad, especially since Thermaltake's pretty good with their cases. Their case designs are pretty good. You'll probably hear my phone go off several times. Like I said before, I'm a moderator for a couple of Discords. I'm also involved in some additional chats, and I've got my social media for Grey Wolf Towers as well as my own personal stuff. So I get a lot of dings, a lot of emails, a lot of messages. So let's see. So this is the inside of the machine. Not too bad, if I say so myself. It's not perfect, and it's not the most picture friendly. It does have some ketchup and mustard cables, for instance, although it's mostly just the 24 pin that's that way. The 24 pin and the 8 pin. Everything else is black and yellow instead. So it's a little bit nicer than the traditional ketchup and mustard. But this thing is not the easiest to get out, that's for sure. So let's take a look here. In there. Guess I should have looked. There's installing instructions for this. This is going to be a little bit more than I'm used to as far as coolers, but we'll take a peek here. Okay. Doesn't look like there's any bent fins or anything like that, so that's always good. And the adapter for the CPU looks good. Fan looks a little dusty, but there we go. 10 times better now. Now the seller did say that there was one screw missing. If I remember correctly, it's for the fan going to the... Yep, there it is. So it's the fan going to the radiator. There's one missing. So that won't destroy our ability to use it. It just means that it might have a little more vibration noise than normal. So I'm thinking I might reconsider my thoughts of putting it on the top and instead put it on the front, so that one, we have an intake fan, which this case doesn't come with, but also it seems a lot easier to take off the front panel than the top panel. So I'm going to go ahead and try that real quick. Bear with me in a moment. Oh, there we go. Popped right off. Doesn't look like anything snapped, so that's good. Alright. Probably should have taken this one off before doing this, but so the nice thing about this is that this cooler can run on more than just one CPU. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is take this cooler and take this cooler and clean it up and use it in my daughter's computer that I'm building. She's getting it as a late birthday, late Christmas gift because I wasn't able to get it any earlier. So put this into her machine, which will be running a Ryzen 5 2400G. This will be cool enough to run that, but also it will have RGB, which her RAM, unlike my other daughter and my wife's RAM, which is RGB, hers will be non-RGB to start. So this will add a little flavor to it, along with her fans and everything, so she can do some little customizations, because her fans are going to be straight purple to start with. Mostly because that's her new favorite color. So this thermal paste is some of the cheapest that I've ever used, which is great for the pocket, not so great for cleanup. If this stuff gets on your fingers, it is a beast to get off. It will make your fingers silver for days. This is the stuff that's often marketed as Thermal Grizzly and Arctic Silver on eBay, but when you get it, it's this stuff called Protronics, and it comes out this silvery color. It is extremely difficult to get off of your fingers and other stuff. You have to use rubbing alcohol to get it clean, period. There is nothing else that will get it off of anything, and it will sometimes still be on for days afterwards. So this stuff is decent for cooling. It does a good job. I don't have any problems with it keeping the thermal stuff where it should be. It does its job. It is very, very difficult to get up off of stuff when it gets on it. I've gotten it onto fan blades and things like that accidentally by getting it onto my fingers and then touching stuff. It does transfer, so if you get it on something, it will get onto other stuff. So keep that in mind if you decide to use this stuff. Aside from that one downfall, it's an extremely nice thermal paste. It's cheap. It's not gotten anything. It's not gotten onto anything and fried it or anything like that. That I've used it on dozens of computers. And like I said, it's cheap. It cost me like, I want to say like $6 for like 5 tubes or something like that. So it's very, 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 very low cost. So, all right, like I said, first time using this cooler, so bear with me. I'm gonna Alright, so these are not difficult, they're just weird. I've only ever used one other water cooler and it was a lot different than this, but it was also on an Intel system. So that looks like that's the base plate, the back plate to it. Alright, now let's put this on. We're going to need to put it down like this. And then we need these screws here. So it is a fair bit more involved than adding a water or an air cooler onto the system. These water coolers are AIOs, because this isn't technically a water cooler, it's an AIO, because it's all in one device. It's not a custom water loop. So this here, there it is a little more difficult than an air cooler, but simpler than an actual water cooler. So keep that in mind. If you're trying to get into something, it's kind of a mid-ranged item as opposed to a difficult or an easy. It's going to be mid-ranged. And I'm going to just kind of fit this over it real quick to make sure that that's the right way, because there is another way that they could go real quick. This. Yes, okay. So that should be good there. This there. A lot of dust on the bottom filter there, sorry. Just saw it, so I figured I'd get that out real quick. Alright. We're going to put this on this way. And this way, it'll suck air in from the front as opposed to blowing it out. Like if it were somewhere else, blowing it this way as opposed to blowing it out of the case. So we're going to go ahead and get these. We only have 3 of these screws, so. Now the nice thing about this fan is that it's not one of the El Cheapos. Like I have a Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo, and the fan on that did not come with these pads. These pads are dampeners, rubber pads to dampen the sound so that when the fans are going really fast, it's a little bit quieter because the vibration noise isn't there. And so that's a nice feature that this cooler has that some of the more premium ones don't. However, because of this extra looseness to it, it's probably going to vibrate more than it should. But I think overall it'll be okay. And again, I'm probably breaking some rule in the case where it's supposed to be somewhere else, but you know what? Sometimes you gotta do things a little off in order to get them to work right. So I'm gonna do it my way. Sorry, my camera is about to die, and then on top of that, it also has a timer on it, so I've extended past the amount of time, so I may have missed a few seconds there. Basically all I really did was I found a spot that this will fit, and I'm putting it in whether it's exactly correct or not. It looks like it's where it was designed to be able to fit a fan, so I'm going to go with it, and it should be fine. Now in a moment I'm going to have to cut again to grab the thermal paste, which I left over there, and I can't take the camera with me, so I'll just cut out the time that it takes me to walk back and forth. So it looks like that's that. These seem to be part of the Intel side. Alright, so I'm going to step aside for a moment, come right back, and we will finish this up. Alright, so I've grabbed my thermal paste. I'm going to use this. It's Thermaltake TG7, so it's a little bit higher quality than I usually use on my stuff. I figure what the hey, only live once, right? So real quick, I'm going to put that, there you go. There we go, these are the pieces for the bracket to stay mounted, so that actually would be very much needed. We're just going to tighten those with our screwdriver here. There we go. So now for this, I can't really show you a close-up. You know what? For this, we're just going to put on the CPU itself a little drop about the size of a pea. It's a little bigger than it should be, but okay, sorry about that. I had to cut so that I could charge the battery a little bit. Didn't charge it fully, but it should be enough to finish this video out. So I've gotten everything done up. I put on the thermal paste. I used TG7 from Thermaltake. Figured it was only fitting. It's Thermaltake case. Nah, I'm just kidding. I just used it because it was the easiest one to find in there. Anyway, so yeah, pea size, I'm going to see about inserting a picture, and that way you guys can see what I mean by pea size. You don't want a huge amount. You don't want it to look like, you know, somebody just emptied the whole bottle in there. You definitely don't want to use a whole syringe of it. This stuff is good for a minimum of 3 to 5 computers, and some of these, like this one, I'm pretty sure is good for 10 to 20. So if you go through much of this, you're wasting it and you're risking damaging your computer. So keep that in mind. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and plug this up. Alright, so that, and then all that's left now is to plug up the fan plug. Now this particular all-in-one does not have RGB. It does have LED. It's supposed to be white from what I understand. I've never used it. This is the Captain 120EX, I believe it is. Let's just double check that. So yes, it is the Captain 120EX. So this is a more basic unit, but I've heard good things about them. We're going to see if it's good or not. But yeah, basically pretty simple overall to install. It took me about a half an hour of actually less than half an hour of actual work, mostly reading and researching. So never having put one of these together was a new experience. So this is the finished product. So you can see the cooler to the CPU, and then the radiator over here, the tubes, they're kind of stiff. And then the back plate sits here with the bolts in place. So yeah, now all that's left for me to do is to put this beast back together again. And hopefully it will do for her what mine did for me when I put my Corsair cooler onto mine. I upgraded mine, that's the other cooler that I did. It's a Corsair, it's 240 millimeter Corsair, no RGB to it except for the cooler to the CPU itself has a little RGB to the name Corsair, and that's it. There's nothing else RGB to it. So I'll probably end up switching out the fans so that they're RGB later, but that's something that I don't need to worry about right now. So overall, not hard, just a medium difficulty as far as coolers. So air coolers are definitely simpler to do overall, especially stock coolers. Those things are among the easiest that I've ever used. So, and you can probably hear my family in the background. They're doing some stuff for New Year's, doing some scrapbooking and memory stuff. So I'm gonna get this together real quick, and then I will try to put a picture of it towards the end of this. Maybe even at the end of me putting this on. And that way you can see the finished product. And see how it looks powered on versus, I'll show you a before and an after. So you can see the difference between the stock cooler and the Captain 120EX. Now this is a 120 millimeter cooler. It is not necessarily the biggest, baddest, but hopefully it'll do a little better than the air cooler in our specific situation where she's by a window, we're in warmer temperatures, and it will hopefully do a good job keeping her CPU cooler, especially routing it the way that I did so that it'll actually blow cool air into the radiator, suck in cool air into the radiator, and then what would be considered waste heat air will blow in and hopefully be cool enough to still cool the graphics card and other parts in here and provide a little airflow going through the case and out the exhaust, and that'll add a little cooling to it overall, I think, too. So it'll be better than the configuration it was in with just an exhaust fan, nothing sucking in or bringing air in. So anyway, I hope that was helpful to you guys, seeing somebody put it together, seeing the struggle that happens with a water cooler or an all-in-one. And yeah, hopefully you guys have a great New Year's. Hopefully you already had a great Christmas. Tonight is New Year's Eve, and I look forward to seeing you guys comment on the video. Definitely hope for some likes. Definitely hope for some more. So yeah, sorry, another battery charge there real quick for a few moments. Don't have long, it's already flashing red, but I wanted to get this closing out. Hopefully you guys had a great Christmas, a Happy New Year. Tonight is New Year's Eve, and then hopefully I'll get some subscribers and some likes and some comments. I'd really like to see some comments flowing. Comments are the thing I want the most right now, although subscribers are definitely appreciated. But yeah, so that was the process of putting in an all-in-one. And I'll take some pictures and include some pictures somewhere in this video of the before and the after. And that way you can see what it looks like before and after the upgrade using a stock Ryzen 7 1700 stock cooler and then the Captain 120EX AIO. And then hopefully there will be another video down the road showing what the performance is like. So yeah, Happy New Year, guys! And thanks for watching.